Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today's August 30, 2023. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. We also want to thank the Ann Arbor Film Festival for uniting people like me and Joey. Over the years, I've met so many great people through this film festival, and thanks to the Ann Arbor Film Festival. But this is part two with Joey Huertas. Joey, where in the heck are you calling in from? Like, that's a joke.
Well, part one. Remember, this is the sequel. We already did part one. I'm
The-
calling from Westchester County, so let's hope this.
oh, no, I thought it was Joey from the Bronx.
I'm always Joey from the Bronx. Oh, I'm in the
But
Bronx.
the
I'm
Bronx
Joey
is
from
in
the Bronx.
Westchester. You mean the Bronx is
I
not?
live in Westchester. I live in the. So I told you, my Molly Ringwald is my neighbor, I'm from the Bronx. I'm a Bronx guy, and I go to the Bronx every day. I'm not far from the Bronx, by the way.
Yeah, and I'm glad you remind us. We're part two.
Yeah, we're a sequel.
So, yeah, so this is amazing, and I love you, Joey. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah,
It's so T.S. Eliot, the poet, said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in? The good laugh, dude.
What language is my inner dialogue in?
Yeah, the voice inside your head. What language is
Well,
that?
prior to going live, we were talking about Diamanda Galas and the amazing work of Diamanda Galas, who I love. I love you, Diamanda. She has a way about her exceptional work where it's very primal. It's almost like speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
And she's able to access that naturally, instinctively, and also through a lot of training. So anyway, I would say my natural voice uh, is of the same nature. Some kind of very primal, a primal thing, similar to like Shry. I would compare it to like Shry X, an album of Diamanda Glass that I recommend everyone get. It's an incredible album of her. She recorded it all locked up in a black box.
Amazing. That was beautiful. Primal, speaking in tongues. And so, George Manupelli, who started the Ann Arbor Film Festival, his mantra is ignore yourself. Jonas Mekas says there is no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor said, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, music making, filmmaking more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
Yeah. I am a vessel. I am a vehicle. I said this before in part one, where I do feel it's my some of my best works that I feel are my best works because I was able to get in a state of flow would be where I felt some kind of sense of possession. People call, sometimes people go to museums or find some level of inspiration, something that inspires them, and that inspiration kickstarts something. So I would say, repeat the question.
Is music making, art making, filmmaking more self-expression or
Right.
more you're a vehicle?
Yeah. So again, I'm a vest. I feel like I get possessed by something, and then I will select sort of toys to play with that I don't really like. Certain films I make, I will pick like a pixel vision camera or a rundown 8mm camera that maybe the motor ain't working up to par, and I'll do my best to get the thing to get something on recording, and then I'll work with that. So I do like to play with toys, but there's something possessing me, an inner thing that's happening, that something I have to get out of my system. A very weird thing that happened is I was on a roll for a while, making a lot of shorts, a lot of what I call poems, and then I hit a drought. And I've just recently learned that drought was because I had a lot of stuff I think internally I wanted to get out, like almost like these confessional poets who have to. It's cathartic, right? So I got it out, and then I had a little drought, and now there is something new I just figured out. I do want to get out of my body, get out of my system. So I'm doing it now with this feature film I'm working on.
That was really well done, dude. You're articulate, and I appreciate it, Joey, because the real hidden question is, can art making be egoless?
Listen, people think artists are egomaniacs. I think there's a confidence that when a person experience the is taken over by an inspiration or by this possession that I call it, and creates something that to the artist themselves blows them away. People see that as this kind of arrogant ego thing, but it's not. We ourselves are spectators of the work that we make, and there's not one movie that I've made that I could look back on now that I just don't understand how I made it, and I couldn't make that again. I'm not in that place anymore, and I wouldn't want to do it again. And that's real art rather than people sitting at group tables trying to figure out what they're going to do for next season in a Netflix show or something.
Yeah, because for years, 80% of people say, "Can art be egoless?" And they go, "No." And one woman said about a year ago, she goes, "Great art is egoless," and that was weird. And then a woman said about 2 months ago, it has to be egoless.
Yeah.
But it's hard because the word ego carries this baggage because it also is egotistical or ego. And then it always gets me to go to the question, was Freud right?
I think Freud was right most of the time. Yeah.
That's good. And the other examples I give, I love because you being a drummer, they asked the drummer for James Brown, who's the architect of funk drumming. They go, "Where'd you get your sound? How'd you invent funk drumming?" He goes, "I'm in Ohio, and there's a factory on one side of my house, and there's a train track on the other. So it was like boom, boom, boom.
Oh.
He got it from there." And then they asked Ginger Baker, "Where'd you get your sound?" And he said, "I was in London when they were bombing. Boom, 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 boom." And then the guy from Negative Land told me Missy Elliott. They said, "How'd you learn to sing?" She goes, "From car alarms." That's heavy. So where did you get this sense of pursuing drums as a calling? Like, you're hardcore, but I mean, I know you do other elements of music, but isn't your main instrument from your pursuits in music drum, or was it something before drums?
No, it was I drew. I would sketch and draw before drums, but once I discovered drumsticks at a flea market, I think I talked about it in the first episode. I was just it was done. It was over. Um, and I will add, before the drumsticks, there's something about sticks. I guess I was really into Bruce Lee and nunchucks, and I'm a nunchuck meister. I would cut
Right.
drumsticks and tie chains to one, and I'm no joke with nunchucks. I'm very good with nunchucks. I taught myself.
Right.
But yeah, once I bought those drumsticks at the flea market, I was addicted to drums. And anyone can go to the first episode, the first interview. I talk about all of that.
I'm sorry, because I thought, did we go through all the music, all your pursuits in music questions?
I'm not sure. I mean,
Okay, let's try that. So what's the function of music?
What's the function of music? Hmm. I think music is very. I think it's very healing. I don't think it's anything but healing. The greatest medicine is music. Um, Music is a very positive manipulator, right? I mean, you can make a choice of what kind of music you listen to manipulate your mood, and it usually works.
Yeah, it's funny because John Cage said the function of music was taught by his teacher was to sober and quiet the mind, thus rendering it susceptible to divine intervention or influences.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's funny because drums you don't think of as calming or sobering your mind, but indeed, that's the pulse that really hypnotizes. Like even Captain Beefheart talks about the mama heartbeat. He tried to break out of the 4/4 beat because that's what you hear in your mother's womb. It's almost like 4/4 beat. So talk about that sense of polyrhythms. We've talked about all these drummers that do polyrhythms, but there's also the essence of Bonham, isn't it? 4/4.
Bonham had that lockdown beat, like almost like the AC/DC has, but drumming. A good drummer is able to control all four limbs, and all four limbs will have their own individuality. So people misinterpret drumming as sort of some loud, aggressive, like the Muppet animal character. Who I love, by the way. I have that stuffed animal on my bed. But drumming is a lot more than that. Drumming it is an instrument, and I think what's challenging about playing drums is being able to control all of the four limbs independently. And then what happens is once you're able to do that, then you're able to, like I think I told you about, like, people like John Densmore or Budgie from Susie and the Banshees. These are people who spent a lot of time on the toms rather than just bass and snare. They made love to the toms and let everybody know. And Stuart Copeland, who did that more with splash small cymbals and the hi-hat and the reggae beat. Regata de Blanc. It's black. It's white reggae is what that means. And so what he was able to manipulate the typical rock punk beat, but also by manipulating, controlling each one of his limbs. I mean, I don't think that worked very well with Sting, which is why they were always combative. Him and Sting. Sting is more of a conventional songwriter, although very jazz oriented.
But when you said, I wanted to make sure I heard the word right. You said pump beat, P-U-M-P, pump beat?
I don't think I said pump. Yeah.
What did you say?
Punk
beat. But
the Police were a punk, believe it or not. The Police were a punk band.
No, they were. And it's funny that I misheard it because it goes back to that the the sound of your blood pumping is sort of maybe the root of the drum sound. I don't know if you read Mickey Hart's book about the origin of drumming, and it's humans were like, hey, what's the function of music? He says, hey, they're coming to steal our food, so this beat on this drum on this log means they're coming to steal our food. Yeah. So it was a communication tool. Go ahead.
No, but that's the argument that's made. Neil Young made it. No, Neil Young with analog versus digital. Neil Young fought hard to keep everything on analog tape. There are the way the sound and the low frequencies affect the body and our heart. Is analog does it in a way where digital can't. Remember, digital is capturing samples at 48 whatever how many samples per second, where analog it's just capturing every single wave that's going on, and it affects our body. And there is a valid argument to be made with analog versus digital, and how it affects our body. I mean, Plato said if you wanted to change a society, you do it through the music.
Wow, that's a good one. But it's interesting we're doing this body talk because McLuhan says everything. He says the most human thing is our technologies, is us inventing things. We invented the drum, we invented the CD player, we invented the record player and the keyboard and the guitar. But we were biomimicking birds. We heard frogs croaking, and that has a beat. So let's just start with that. The drumstick, what humanness does it extend? The knife and fork extends your teeth. The shutter in a camera, a projector extends your eyelid. And even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, extends is maybe extension of consciousness. What does the drumstick extend for you? What humanness?
Well, I did say that in the first interview where it was like a separate appendage.
Yeah.
But you have spoken in the past in other interviews I've seen you do and talks about Wendy Carlos,
Yeah.
and she was someone who basically reinvented the synthesizer and how she created and composed for film soundtracks like what The Shining, and then in Clockwork Orange, the
Yeah.
opening, and she did the whole entire soundtrack to Tron. And I think what she did was she would recreate or orchestral sounds and then create patches for them. And then she basically reconstructed the whole idea of what what digital music can be.
Wow, that's heavy. Yeah, no, that's amazing what she did with Switched on Bach. She changed the world.
Unbelievable.
And so I thought we didn't do these, but did we talk about Aaron Copland's 4 elements or ingredients of music being melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color? So the first question is how do you describe what is tone color? Not in musical like academic terms. To the lay person, how would you describe what is tone color?
I would say tone colored would be being able to hear a simple or complex mix of various instruments and being able to decipher individual instruments among that mix. So
Yeah.
the tone color you'd be able to tell. And again, I mean, Police were just 3 people, but I think like Grateful Dead, they had multiple members, and you'd be able to decipher every single instrument on a live show of theirs.
Yeah, because it was Mickey Arts playing like Eastern beats and Bill's playing rhythm and blues beats.
It's insane.
Yeah. So then you go to these 4 elements or ingredients that Aaron Copland distinguishes. How do you focus or integrate the 4 when you're writing a Joey composition? Melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color.
Yeah. I think a lot of that, especially for a drummer, that a lot of that happens in post production. In the That's really where it's almost like editing. Like you shoot all your footage, and then in post production, you cut all the fat off of it, and then you sculpt it together. And I would say the same with music. A drummer just usually it's the foundation of the song, and then after you just sort of you mold it into what it and so I would say in post production is where you find it and you do all of that work.
But I mean, you have a vision in your mind's ear. You're starting to write a composition. Does it sometimes start with a harmony or a melody or a beat or a tone color? I mean, is there any
Hmm.
sort of ritual or process that you've found over the years? I mean, how many years you've been composing?
A long time I've been
Yeah.
composing, and I would just flat out tell you, you find 1 or 2 sounds. And remember, I do a lot of field work, field
Yeah.
recordings. 1 or 2 sounds, whether it be after a heavy rainfall, a sewer system, the water going down into the sewer, or a certain old car engine. You find 1 or 2 sounds that just sort of like you feel attached to. You clean it up, and then it sets a mood, and then you work on that mood to create an atmosphere, and that atmosphere becomes this beautiful storm.
In fact, my friend says the 3 T's of music are taste, technique, and theory. You've learned the technique. You know the structure of the theory. How does one acquire taste?
How does one acquire? Well, taste can change as we mature. Um, how does one acquire taste? I would say it's no different than food or travel. You have to consume as much of a variety as you can, and then you start figuring out what is at the top, echelon of everything you're getting a taste to.
But I know, but you gravitated towards Stuart Copeland rather than Herman's Hermits?
Yeah, as a drummer, I did, but as a sound designer for music, not no, uh,
Real?
not at all. No, no. As a sound designer, once I start installing some of the field recordings, and let's say if it was a drum beat, I would manipulate it or reverse it or whatever, put a little reverb, put it as a temp track into the film, and then uh, as most people do, see a lot of filmmakers, what they do is they'll install a temp track temporarily until they get a composer to write the. So what I'll do is I'll put a temp track, and then that temp track, if depending on what mood I'm in, if I'm just not into cleaning up the image or re-editing, then I'll continue to work with that temp track and expanding it, and that dictates where the visuals will go. So the whole piece, it's very much like, I would say it's very much like painting and trying out colors and stuff. Very much like painting, how I approach making films. Absolutely.
Wow. And that's funny because isn't the story on 2001? They just put in some temp tracks and then
Yeah.
Kubrick goes, keep it.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear that happens a lot. They're like, here's what I want to get. And then the composer doesn't get it and goes, can't we just buy the
Yeah. Well, that's what happened with Wendy Carlos. Here it is.
Yeah, there you go. Wendy. So back to that word taste. This is McLuhan. There's two parts to this statement he made. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment on that? Now I'll read it again if you want.
Read it again. Yep.
Okay, the first part is song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference.
Hmm.
You know, I could give you an example like gamelan. You know, it's very percussive and it's, you know, and it might drive some people nuts. But is it dry? I mean, a Western culture, but is it because of we're a different language speaking, verbal language speaking, or is it something else?
I think it's an attempt to connect with other. I recently was hearing about the whales. I think it was a humpback whale that they just recently discovered that it's, or sperm whales. I'm sorry, that sleeps vertically. And what they do is they have a language where they have clicks, like 5 clicks, whatever. And this is the certain sort of groups of different types of sperm whales. And what they do is they'll go, let's say like 5 clicks, and then whatever they're looking at, they'll wait to hear back if they get 5 clicks back to know if that's part of their group. I would equate it to something like that.
Yeah. Well, what's more fundamental, language or music?
Music comes first.
Yeah.
You see that in the Doors movie. Remember that Oliver Stone movie, The Doors?
How's it illustrated there?
I think when he was going into his whole Lizard King, I can do anything, and he was all absorbed into the drugs and this, the music brought a whole group of people together, and it transcended. No matter how poetic or how great his lyrics was, it was about that musical vibe that he created that brought everybody together. You know.
Yeah. That's it. It is amazing that you said music's a healing force. I constantly reverberate with that. That it's
Why is that? Why do you reverberate with that?
because I've seen people break down to their essence and relate to each other in watching, especially street musicians in Venice Boardwalk for 40 years.
Mhm.
Like people walk by and really tap in to someone performing music free, not paying for a club or buying a record, but it's like breathing or walking. All of a sudden they're, so, you know, you don't have to give money And it's sort of that thing like, Joey, will you do a benefit for me? And it's like, if your friend works at the grocery store, you go, could you give me some groceries free? People think, musicians don't need to be paid. And in a way, it's like that's what ruined music. Recording it and paying it. It should be this ritual that people do together to be happy. Another thing about the function of music is to dance, to move is the function of music. It's the soundtrack to movement. But
Well, how did Zappa feel about that? I don't think Zappa's music, his compositions are difficult to dance to.
oh, he was always promoting dance. Yeah, no matter what. No matter what time signature. It's sort of like Thelonious Monk. I wanted to bring him up because it's like how Thelonious Monk would stand up and turn around. You ever see those films? I
Yeah.
mean, it's an amazing thing, and that's called epistrophe. He might have had like a mental or whatever you want to call it. I hate when people call, but he had to spin around.
Yeah.
As a kid, you spin around, but it made him move. And we know, I mean, the other guy, the book just came out on Chuck Berry, dude. I mean, it's unbelievable what Chuck Berry did.
Mm.
But what is he known for? The duck walk. It's like, dude, the guy is a pioneer. He knew this important thing. He knew to rip off Louis Jordan's guitar lick and make it the anthem for America, Johnny Be Good. He ripped that lick off. So that's what a genius is. No, Zappa said a genius is when you rip something off and no one knows where you got it.
That's
And
right.
no one knows that he got it from Louis Jordan's guitarist. He got that lick. But so what? I mean, basically, he's known more for his like duck walk or whatever it's called, when he's playing his guitar.
Yeah.
But
Gerry,
this is,
Gerry, what do you think about Robert Johnson? Do you think he sold his soul to the devil?
well, that's another whole thing. I like the connection between Robert Johnson and Charlie Patton and all that crossover. But yeah, that's another heavy issue we should go into is the blues. And that's my favorite is the blues is a positive thing, but they think, oh, it's a negative thing, like your soul to the devil. The blues is defined by Ray Charles as a black man's walking down the street and a white man sees him and the black man has a shoe in his hand. And the white guy goes, dude, did you lose a shoe? And the black man goes, I found one. So that's the history of the blues. It's the positive step.
Yeah.
It's the alleviating healing factor. Yeah. But I mean, it's heavy. And I mean, we should do a whole salon on blues, dude, because I love it. But back to Monk, this is the question is, my friend said, Thelonious Monk heard all the same notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them. And so he was a big propagator of the space between notes. Okay. And he said silence is the loudest sound in the universe. So it's basically two questions. One is, how do you navigate or integrate silence between drum beats or how do you navigate silence in your music? How does that, like Miles said, silence is it's the space. Music is the space between the notes when you're not playing. How do you do that, especially with the sensibility of a drummer or a composer in a soundtrack? How do you know when not to play?
Yeah, well, for music, for drumming, which is different than for film, which would be this negative space opening, it has to be, in my opinion, almost like a covered bridge. There has to be a bridge that the listener has to be aware that there's a waiting period that's going to lead to something new, something fresh, some new terrain. But it is that quiet area, that quiet space is a bridge that leads to a new terrain.
Right, but that's called dynamics. But how do you get that sense? Because especially with drumming, people think you have to always be hitting. How do you know when to not hit?
I would say that's good composition, Gerry. That's you have to make a choice as a composer to know how to implement those kind of dynamics for the bigger picture. You have to know how the piece is going to end. I don't think a jazz performance could necessarily do that, but something more structured could.
Yeah. Well, you've been a performer. You've performed music in front of audiences. Ruth Draper says the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who must give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. Hey, that sounds great, but how do you do that?
I told you last time, stage diving. Hit fast forward, got to go up. I did some of these questions. Thank God I remember them.
Dude, I'm glad, and I'm sorry I didn't do.
Oh no, it's good. It's good. It keeps me on my.
But did we do the Leonard Cohen? The only way you can sell a concert if you put yourself at risk.
No.
Okay, so this is Leonard said the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk, and if you don't do that, people know. What
the only way you can sell a concert is if you put yourself at risk.
And if you don't do that, people know. So the question is what role does a risk play in your creative process?
I think now for artists, risks, unfortunately, is everything. With this whole cancel culture thing that's going on, I mean, a real artist has to be really brave and really confident in their surrendering to this possession of creating a work without worrying about how it will be perceived or judged by what's going on temporarily in the social scheme of things, which is changing at this point like every month. So at this point, artists are taking risks all the time. But you know what? I do believe that a true artist doesn't really concern themselves with that. I think I honestly believe a true artist, Frank Zappa, obviously is a perfect example of that from the onset. I mean, he was arrested. Remember when early on he even got his ass thrown in jail. I mean, you just end up you do what you do because it's like breathing air.
Yeah.
And then you find out later on in conversations like this that it was wow, why the fuck did you do that? You fucking nuts. And it's like, if you knew how dangerous it was, you wouldn't have done it. So it actually is very helpful that you're not aware of how stupid it was when you did take that risk. But you just don't know any better. An artist just does it and doesn't know any better, and that's what creates that kind of magic that other people who are not artists and call themselves artists, well, they sort of try to pre-plan and plot out and scheme and create a whole a blueprint of how this thing is going to work, and it doesn't work like that.
Wow. Well, what does courage mean to you now, Joey?
We did that one already. I don't want to redo courage.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
Okay. I was born with courage. I was born in Jacoby. I can't help but have courage.
Wow.
You can't be from the Bronx without courage. It just doesn't happen.
It's in your DNA. But you think you got it from your mom and dad's DNA?
Courage?
Yeah. The way they raised you, the physical DNA, or on your own?
It's the nurture versus nature thing, but it's 50-50. It's the DNA of my parents, and it's also being around the the Bronx is very different than other boroughs in New York. It really is, and I think if I think on everyone who's born in the Bronx, it should be stamped on the birth certificate like courage. It's just kind of like it's just.
But is it because of there's more nationalities? It's different. It's working class. What marks the Bronx as being different?
I've had this conversation with people in Brooklyn. My main office with some of the work I do is in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is very different than the Bronx. All apologies to everyone in Brooklyn watching this. I can't. I don't understand Brooklyn. I can't do it. I think the Bronx has. There's a weird unity of this buffet of cultures and people that come together more so, in my opinion, than Brooklyn, Queens, or Manhattan, who have more of a self-identity or have more segregated blocks or areas. The Bronx is just like this hodgepodge of what I feel like the movie Ghostbusters at the end, when the Marshmallow Man comes up and Bill Murray's out there with that fucking gun with Dan Aykroyd and stuff, and it's the whole city comes behind like, all right, now it's on, motherfuckers. Now we come together and we're gonna fuck you up. And the Bronx has that kind of thing. Other boroughs don't have that, man.
You mean they're more accepted what diversity?
When push comes to shove, the Bronx will come together as one.
That's amazing.
Bronx Bombers.
Wow. But did I ask you the Viola Spolin? If the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it. Like you're drumming, they can if they can't see you're struggling, they can't root for you. Is struggle play a role in your creative process when you're performing live?
No, but struggle plays a part in an audience. The audience who gravitates towards a band or towards a musician or towards an artist, they identify themselves with a struggle that sometimes the artist is oblivious to. It's very natural to the artist, but to others, Kurt Cobain, I think, would be an example of that. This guy was, or Sylvia Plath. These people were action-packed figures of trauma and shit. Yeah. And the audience, to them, they were just expressing themselves, doing something I think that was very alleviating and very cathartic to them. But everyone else outside who were like attached to what they were a voice of certain packs of a certain generation of a certain group of people, and I don't think they were never really aware of it, and they probably didn't want to have it. So it's like a curse. I don't even think they probably wanted to have that gift.
Right.
It's a gift that keeps on giving, because when you're dead, you're still alive. The work, your soul and your spirit is still in the work.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect lead into archiving. We didn't talk about that. I hope not. But let me ask you one more music question. Forgive me if I ask you.
Yeah.
Ben Ratliff, the music jazz writer, said, "I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players. Sound as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note." So if we heard Miles, we go, "Oh, that's Miles, fragile and pointed. Oh, that's Coltrane, slightly undercooked or urgent," or Elvin Jones. You can pretty much tell in a couple beats of their music. But Ben would summarize the sound in 2 words. If a music writer that you really respected was going to summarize Joey's sound as a musician, what 2 words would you go, "They got me"?
Raw and beautiful. I think we did this, but I have the answer again because I know it is. I do my stuff raw
Yeah,
and and I make sure that it doesn't end till I've polished it all up.
that's beautiful. Great. And so now archiving, why do you think, it's evident that humans want to collect their stuff? Look at you have your collection in back of you. And I recently visited my archive. It was amazing to just go in where they have these big, walls of
Wow.
temperature control and all that.
Where is it? Where is it?
University of California, Santa Barbara. It's unbelievable. All my tapes are stored there, all the Pixel and all the interview tapes.
Wow.
And so I'm lucky. And we're really researching and making a feature film on archiving. And like Egyptians put stuff in their coffin with them.
Yeah.
If the Eastern philosophy is be here now, why do we need to collect stuff? In the long run, it's what we're living in the present, and is this need or want to collect an archive or hoard, which, if you haven't read it, run out and get it. The new book on Harry Smith. Was he a hoarder or was he the greatest archivist ever? Film and music and everything. Is this need or want to archive more innate or more invented? Why do we do it, really?
Well, I have a situation recently. I don't want to say his name because I promised I wouldn't. There's someone I know that I had a very strong creative relationship with, who's writing a book, and he had asked me if I had any of the materials back when we created together, and I have giant crates of stuff, and I opened it up, and I blew myself away when I found like flyers and club
Right.
club menus where I had written down and dated what had happened that day. I couldn't believe that I did that. It was just innate. It was just something I have always done since a child with my sketching and drawing. So I think it's just an innate thing. I'm not a hoarder.
Yeah.
But I do save things that are close to my heart. I think it was. I think I knew that was very important to me. It's very special, so I wanted to preserve it and save it.
Yeah.
And I will say, I was kind of surprised that I was the only person who had all of that material saved and well documented, dated, timed. But also I was surprised that others didn't. But I wasn't too surprised that I was. It was cool to see that I've always operated in this kind of a way. But as far as archiving, the problem with archiving, Gerry, and I'm glad you brought it up, is for music and for film. It's a complicated subject because no matter because everything is going at such a accelerated speed, technology, that the artist continues to have to figure out how to preserve and archive the work, and I think it's extremely important to do that.
But it's called, let me interrupt, because it's called migrate the media. And the bottom line is, don't throw the masters out. And people like, no, I've got 5 boxes of VHS tape. Just dump them over to a hard drive. I've talked to the greatest archivists in the world. They go, dude, everybody thinks that hard drives save the world. No, they don't. You have to check the hard drive once a year, and you got to replace it every 7 years. Your 16 millimeter elements, your Super 8, your magnetic tape is going to last way longer than digital. But who's going to store it? Like, do you have a plan if you die? You do? Yeah.
Absolutely, and I'll have it in my will that I'm working on in December and all that. Yes, but I want 2 things I want to say about that. One is you know about baking tapes? You know about that?
Tell me.
So magnetic tape, analog tape, if it has not been after a certain amount of years, you risk, if you play it it degrades, so it could shred in the player. So what you have to do is you have to bake it into an oven. Look it up online. There's a certain art to baking it. You have to bake the tape, and you bake it, you cook it for a certain amount of time in a certain kind of oven, so that the tape uh, is not attached to one another. Then you
Yeah.
get one run. You get the one run to play it and digitize it, and then it's a wrap. It's good as garbage. So baking tapes is a big thing with analog right now that you have to do. And there are organizations that specialize in baking tapes. And then another thing I wanted to say is, remember I was involved with Millennium Film Workshop, and whoever's watching this, if you can donate money, Millennium Film Workshop. I was the executive director for many years, and now Joe Wakeman is the executive director. And they have a space in Brooklyn, and if anyone wants to donate, they have a space that they're trying to secure for years. Anyway, the Millennium Film Workshop's been around since 1966, and the archive was sold to the MoMA, the Museum of Modern Art, and all of the recordings from Stan Brakhage when he had cancer. We have all of that we had all of it on crates, and the MoMA has it. So what we wanted to do was a retrospective of the Millennium Film Workshop's archive over the years since the 60s.
Yeah.
The Millennium Film Workshop was one of the pioneers of experimental cinema in New York, in the world. It started with Ken Jacobs, started the whole thing. Anyway, we went when I met with the execs at MoMA. They told me they were unable to do a retrospective on the archive that they purchased because it's infected with insect larvae.
Oh no! But they still took it and stored it.
It's stored in a climate controlled place in Pennsylvania, but it's going to cost $18,000 just to remove all of the damage that's been done to all of the analog 16 millimeter celluloid and analog cassette tape of Brakhage stuff and. Yes.
So the insects aren't eating it and destroying it. They're just it's infected.
Eggs. Yeah, they laid eggs all over it.
Because my VHS tapes of my first 20 years of Pixel started growing mold on the VHS, and you could see through the window. And so I asked USC, do you want my archives? USC said yes. And then I go, well, it's got mold. And they go, nope. UCLA, no. And then the academies took my archive at first, and then I decided to move the whole archive to Santa Barbara so it'd be in one place. But that is sitting there and now in climate controlled, but it's still haven't had the mold baked off it.
Well, you need to communicate with Harvard Film Archives.
Yeah, in
Boston, they have an incredible archive building and department that specializes in all of that. And you could do a visit and a tour with them, but that's the place to talk to the Harvard Film Archive.
Yeah, I will. I'll check that out. That's really good, smart move. But it is interesting that you say it is innate to store, to collect and store, because it's basically history. But really, Joey, you're not wandering around in your archives. You're moving forward and go, okay, now I had my drought. Now I'm moving to my next project. Why do we have to have like even the masters, Woody Allen, Frank Zappa, they never went back and watched or listened to their old stuff. They just kept moving forward.
Right. So why do we listen to like Joe's Garage? Why would I go grab?
But that's us. But that's us being the consumer, or we're the consumer, the makers. They feel, oh, I have to save my masters. Some of these people, like Frank said, I don't care about how I'm remembered. Well, that he probably does. Mike Tyson just said it in a quote. I don't care how I'm remembered except with my family. I hope my family remembers me.
Well, unfortunately, ever since he got that crazy fucking tattoo on his face, we're never gonna forget that guy.
But it is like, do you care about your legacy?
Of course, yes, I do care about my legacy. Yeah, I mean, if there's any argument to be made for artistic ego, it would be, yeah, I want my fucking shit to be say no different than if I go to a cemetery. I would when I go visit someone in the cemetery, I want to visit someone in the cemetery, and most of the time I go to a cemetery, the fucking place is empty. No one gives a shit. And nowadays, everyone's getting cremated, so and they throw themselves into the ocean. I don't even get that. Like, what the fuck are you alive for? But my all apologies. I don't get that. I want a place
Yeah.
where I could be visited and where I could visit others. But listen, if
Yeah.
that's what certain people want, all right.
Yeah.
Then,
You respect it. But it's interesting because we're talking about this death thing. And I probably already asked you this one last time too. Can you forget to die?
no, you didn't ask me this last time. Nothing about
I,
death.
I did not.
No, you didn't. But this is a good.
Okay, well, let me set it up properly. You'll love the setup on this because it's Hollis Frampton. Okay. Narrative is born among the animal necessities of the spirit because we're waiting to die. Can you forget to die?
I love this question because something happened yesterday to me. So I went and played I usually do about an hour drumming, right? So I played my drums and I came out, and then I was gonna make myself something for dinner, right? And then I look at the front door and I see that the deadbolt and it's all unlocked. And I know me, I don't leave the door unlocked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, it happened. I'm fucking dead. I fucking died. This is like, so it's like I had to open the door, make sure my Bronco was outside, like the light. I made sure the cat was around. I actually thought, I was like, holy shit, I'm fucking dead.
That is trippy. So what happened? You forgot?
I think I was for some reason I'm all into, I'm all into the band X right now. The punk band X, and I dash home to play fucking Los Angeles in the X albums. And I think I was so excited to fucking play unheard music and the X album that I fucking dashed in. I left the door unlocked, but I really thought I was dead. I was thinking about the Sixth Sense. I was pinching myself, and I was like, if I was dead, could it really be like this in the kitchen? And then I was like, but then the cat was begging for food, and then I knew I was alive. And
thank God you made it. And Joey, do you know DJ Bonebreaker is drumming well then? The drummer.
Not well, but yeah, I do know the drummer.
You know, he's a huge Captain Beefheart fan. And have you ever heard his solo stuff?
No.
Oh yeah, it's really jazzy and marimba and everything.
Nice.
So that's cool. So this is amazing. It's close to what Finnegan's Wake is by James Joyce, is that we fall down, then we get back up. So it's redemption. That's you laugh and you cry. That's the human condition. You die and then you're resurrected, or are you? We don't know. So McLuhan probed Finnegan's Wake, saying artists dream awake. Not to sound elitist, but everybody creates these scenarios when they're sleeping. But artists do that while they're awake. They dream awake. So have dreams played a role in your creative process?
Well, regarding Finnegan's Wake and death, I would say Finnegan's Wake starts and ends mid-sentence.
That's right. Thank you.
I feel like that's the perfect metaphor for life and death. You kind of pop up, into the world, and then when it's time to go, it's usually unexpectedly mid-sentence. It's just like me seeing the door unlocked and I'm dead.
Yeah. But if dreams played a role in your creative process?
For the creative process, not for death. You talk about the creative process?
Yeah.
Have dreams played a role? No, I know Stephen King, I guess, writes down his dreams for
dream journals. Yeah.
Dream journal. Nah, I don't have to do all of that, to be honest with you. I have a very creative mind. In my opinion, the biggest nightmares are when you're awake and you're dealing with people out there in the world.
Yeah.
I don't have to go have a dream. Matter of fact, I look forward to my dreams because real life is the real fucking dream nightmare shit. I look forward to putting the AC and going to sleep and locking my fucking door, keeping away from all of that shit out there.
Well, why is it so difficult for humans to consider the possibility that life might be pointless? I'm not saying life is pointless, but why is it so difficult for us to consider that it might be pointless?
Life is, first of all, life is pointless. Why is it so
I've had
difficult?
that, I've had that response before.
It
That's
is completely pointless. Um, and then once you start doing something you're good at and you do it multiple times, it's then you kind of do I want to do this today? Yeah, I guess I'll do it. Whatever, blah blah. Yeah, that's when you learn. Yeah, it's totally pointless. But relationships are important. Because what relationships do is it passes something on to further generations of humanity, and I think there's something about giving and about contributing to mankind, to our species. I think there's something important and valid about that. So our own life is pointless, but you know what? The archiving of works is not pointless, and because when that work is examined and appreciated and studied or looked at, it can inspire
yeah.
other artists and other works that take a little bit from that and then they put a little bit of the other and they make their own stuff and it keeps the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And in that sense, that's where art becomes much more important than the artist and than us.
Yeah.
That's where the
Well,
documentation is important.
that's amazing, Joey, because what I feel you're saying, tell me if I got it, is the individual is not important, the community is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. So Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Before breakfast.
No, just at all. Have you believed in any impossible things?
Have I believed in any impossible things? Well, some of the things other people will say they're impossible, but I don't believe in them. Um,
Well, name one thing that you believe in that could be impossible.
the congressional hearings on these freaking UAPs, man, these unidentified aerial phenomenon. They
Yeah,
went to Congress. They're fucking saying that lives are getting threatened by the fucking government officials. They're siphoning money from taxpayers and other for these retrieval programs and these reverse technology programs. How come we don't hear about that? How is this bullshit? They'd be arrested if this was bullshit.
yeah.
This is some serious shit. Listen, the radars capture something that was flying around. You can whether it's our drones, fucking Putin's drones, China
Yeah.
drones. There's something up there flying around, and that shit's real, man.
Yeah. Amazing. So, Joey, tell me one major element of your art, your creativeness that's changed, and one major element that stayed the same in the many years you've been doing this.
What's changed is I pay closer attention to how some of my works can be frightening to people. Because I feel all of my works from the Jump Street have always been quite comedic and funny, but other people don't find it that way.
So you paid more attention to how people respond to your
You
art.
can never figure it out, man. I did a movie called Home Wrecker, ends with an A, and I showed it at Syracuse International Film Festival. Ed Harris was sitting with me. I'm sitting there and I'm not thinking twice. Best experimental film, Home Wrecker. I was like, what? Like what? I thought this was the most. I never thought anyone would like that movie. It's because it's kind of scary, and it wanted so you can never predict. You can never predict how others take in subject matter. But you're saying how do that's me paying closer attention to how something can be perceived and treading those waters cautiously so that it doesn't affect the overall passion and sensibilities of whatever I'm trying to But the possession will take care of that, because when you're possessed by this inspiration, you won't allow yourself to do anything other than that. But I find all my movies to be very funny and comedic. But then I would be sort of have a dark sense of humor, which I guess I do have.
Well, let's stay in comedy. What's the function of laughter?
What's the function of laughter? To make the person making other people laugh happy.
Yeah. Gurdjieff said the function of laughter is the reconciliation of yes and no. So McLuhan loved to quote Steve Allen, who said, behind every joke, there's a grievance. I said, even drop the word every. Behind jokes, there's a grievance. Any comment?
George Carlin.
Yeah.
Every joke that came out of his mouth was hilarious, sardonic, sarcastic, wry, and an absolute grievance, minus the ridiculous emphasis on politics that some of the comedians are putting now. He's strayed away from that. Carlin would be the perfect example of a comedian who cites an hour worth of grievances.
Yeah, I worked for George. It's amazing, for a half a year. And my one thing I bring up is there's so many great lines like, how can you ever have a civil war? Whatever happened to letting kids stare out the window? But this one really got me, which is kind of brutal in a way, I think. Anybody who's anti-abortion so ugly you wouldn't want to fuck them anyways. Whoa, that is ruthless.
That's ruthless, man.
But you know, the rise with satire news. Okay, I was raised with, that was the week that was Man Magazine, then Saturday Night Live News, and then I
remember Man Magazine.
Yeah, and then there's this big article in Atlantic. You should read it or glance at it. New issue about how Jon Stewart paved the way for Tucker Carlson, who's a deadhead, by the way. So, it's just it's how the news changed from being a not making profit, just reporting, to now we can make a profit. Jon Stewart made a lot of money and had a big, and then, kids go to Colbert now to get their news. And so does satire news more pacify or more activate people?
It tries to activate people, but I always lean back on like SNL, back with the Aykroyd and Gilda, Chevy Chase days. The SNL really nailed it best, how they approached making fun of politics. They were pretty fair back then, I feel, and I think now it's just it's not really fair and balanced.
But like Alex Baldwin playing Trump, it's like, get over it. All you're doing is empowering him. Then my friend was so proud. He says, I took the mugshot and made a t-shirt. I'm like, oh my God, please. So this is to art itself, and comedy, art. You've said comedy's played this role in your art making. Mike Kelly said, art is making your problems other people's problems.
Wow.
Any comment on that line?
Yeah, but I would say that's almost like a person who has some kind of disability, and they basically are unaware of how they're harming themselves and others, and they're kind of oblivious to it.
Yeah,
a lot in these relationships, particularly people who have these personality disorders. And they sort of wreak havoc, but they're just unaware of how much damage they're doing, and it's not really intentional.
Is perception reality?
Is perception reality? I think that cult who committed suicide with the blankets and the sneakers with Halley Comet, I think they really believed they were going out of space. So I think that was reality to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I went to their workshop in Marina del Rey before they committed suicide. We said, well, let's just go check it out, and sat there and listened to them talk. Weird. So
Listen, write down World Fellowship Center because you need to go there because your film Awake, which I saw, reminded me of Seabrook 1977, this protest movie about this nuclear plant they were making in New Hampshire.
yeah.
And it's called Seabrook 1977. If you can't find it, I'll get you a copy of it.
What's the second
World
word?
Fellowship Center. It started right prior to the World War II.
Okay.
And you have to go and you do your research online and you make sure you go because you need to go. That place is custom built for Gerry Fialka.
Great. I will check it out. Thank you. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength rather than we're usually taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
A weakness I turned into a strength. I would say how I perceive the narrative of the world would be a weakness because others probably wouldn't get it. But then once I put it in a movie and tie it all together with the end credits, then it becomes entertainment, and then it's all good.
That's good. Anger can be a productive emotion when fill in the blank.
When you live in the Bronx.
That's good, Joe. You know, I asked my friend, can satire be destructive? He wrote comedy with Robin Williams. He says, that's the job of satire. Swift compared satire to a mirror in which people could see every face but their own. Frank Zappa saying, watch the Nazis run your town. Now go home and check yourself. You think we're singing about somebody else. What's the function of satire?
I think with satire, there is an artistic arrogance and ego that is important because what satire is doing is it's intentionally taking a look at something and mocking it for being something that the mocker deems to be less important than to how they view things and how they see the world. So there's an arrogance behind it, but it definitely has a company. It definitely has company to keep. But it's also it's a niche.
Yeah. What's funny, because my one friend said Frank Zappa made fun and satirized the things he loved the most. It's sort of like that question I have, you create what you resist. Or Bob Goldthwait said, you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So what is that? Any comments on that line? You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Joey, but one creates what one resists. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I would say, yeah. When I told you about the comedy and stuff that's scary and comedic, I think a part of me when I create something that I consider to be very funny is it's clearly more serious than I think, and
It's deeper. You're trying to get in a deeper level.
Unfortunately, and it's subconscious probably. But yeah, I'm drawn to it, and then and I think my safety net is to make it, in my opinion, that it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But I'm always proven wrong because it's not funny to the other people who see it.
Wow.
And
That's
the harder I try to make it funny and ridiculous and absurd, the more people believe. I've had people in tears after screenings come to me asking how are the parents of this, how is this person, and I'm like, it's all fantasies, and it's not real.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's Faulkner saying sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. That you've created an imaginary world that's really based in reality, but you can call it fiction, but it basically, call it nonfiction, but it really is a reflection of, it's this weird thing called fantasy and making stuff up. But what's the difference between men and women, physical aside? That what's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
so that question posed to me, did you watch the recent debate, the first
I
the
missed it.
okay, so one of the last questions they asked, they posed it to Chris Christie.
What was it?
And out of all the political, they asked him about UFOs, and he goes, "Oh, I get the fucking I get the not the fucking, I get the UFO question." It's kind of like, oh my god. So ask that question again, because you asked a question that's incendiary. So I have to be. Go ahead and
Yeah.
ask it again.
What is the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Between men and women, physical aside, the most, I would say, the most greatest difference between men and women, physical aside, is 100 absolutely the difference of the individual, that the individual feels in and of themselves of others.
Yeah. It almost sounds like the answer I love to get is that there is no difference
I think
between
we,
men and
I think we should all, at this point, man, they should fucking neuter us when we're bored. Just neuter us and see what the fuck movies and the art we make, man. Just fucking
That's where I first saw that was in Fellini's Satyricon.
hack
You
them
know,
all.
the in Fellini's Satyricon, there's a half woman, half man, and they said that's the first humans were half and half.
Look at that.
So on what occasion do you lie?
On what occasion do I lie? On what occasion do I lie? When I go to bed at night and I make myself believe that I done enough today and I can get the other shit done tomorrow. It's a fucking lie. I hate hearing people, I work 14 hours. I did all that. I'm not tired, but yeah, I do enjoy at some point ending the day watching some not brainless stuff. I do take in a lot of. I'm a
Yeah.
political junkie. I take in everything. But I do tell myself I've done enough for today. But I do this. I do follow that old uh, writers thing where it's like, if you can write a line a day or something, then good enough. So
Yeah.
I'll make sure I get on my, if I can at least clean up some fucked up footage or some kind of shot that wasn't working, and then I can walk away from it. At least I did something on my feature film. I said this the first time, and I'll say again: this making a feature film when you're a real artist and not like some kind of hack.
Yeah.
It's so fucking draining, man. It's like, it's like,
Well, believe me,
draining, man.
you're on a roll, Joey, and it's the difference between work and play. You play music and you work your films. Just learn how
That
to
is correct. That is
play your films. Play, have fun.
I don't like that. I don't. I get.
Yeah,
I hate. I actually. I hate. I have a disdain for people who feel like, oh, making movies is fun. It's not fun.
That
There's nothing fun about making a film or movie at all. And and if it is, then what? Like you go back to my first one, then you're to fucking Tarantino, and you're having fun regurgitating the
you're
big.
right, Joey. I rescind.
Fun about that making
I
a film.
rescind. In fact, that's one of my lectures. Filmmaking can't kill you, but why take a chance? And it lists all the guys that say, like, Gus Michael Moore said making films ruined his life. Gus Van Sant said it. So it's not, it's good that you can suss out both ends of the spectrum, because I know you're attracted to it. But how do you find peace of mind?
When remember the door was unlocked and I thought I was dead. I have peace of mind when I come home after long days of work and I lock all the fucking locks on my door. I play my drums. I have some dinner, and then I go back and I watch some. I infest my brain with politics, and I go to sleep.
Yeah. Okay, so here's 5 Alan Watts questions off the top of your head in a couple words. 1, who started it all?
God.
2, are we going to make it?
Yes.
3, where do we put it?
In archive, you got to archive it. Archives.
4, who's cleaning it up?
The maid when you hit it big.
5, is it serious?
No.
Dude, you're knocking them out of the park. We got a few more and we're out of here. This has been fun. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Save the Fonzie t-shirt. Remember I told you my mother gave me a Fonzie t-shirt if I went to school by myself. I wish I had that fucking Fonzie t-shirt and my toys that every time we moved, they threw away. Save the Fonzie t-shirt.
Can't you buy one online?
I met Henry Winkler's on the fucking street. It was fucking crazy.
Nice.
We both locked eyes, and it was just like we had this dialogue between our eyes. It was fucking wild.
I love that when you can talk with your eyes. But can't you buy one of those shirts online?
Maybe, but I wouldn't even want it. It has to be the authentic shirt. It's kind of like underoos. You remember underwear that's fun to wear? I had underoos too. But I would want my Fonzie t-shirt.
That's
and an orange Julius.
You want an original.
Yeah, and the orange. Remember the mall used to get the orange Julius? Oh,
Definitely.
I love the orange Julius.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
Neither way. You should just gush water out and just clean yourself up and leave the fucking bathroom with a towel.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Joey.
They want to.
I love that my name is Joey. I'm so glad. I love that my fucking parents. I mean, I'm Joseph on the birth certificate.
Yeah,
but I'm Joey, and I got to tell you, I love that I'm Joey.
It's a great name. I love it too.
I love that I'm Joey.
My middle name is Joseph.
Look at that,
Gerald Joseph Joey.
Well,
so
click.
Yeah, what they want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Say it again.
They want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
I had a teacher, Miss Hanley, and she used to put scratch and sniff stickers on my tests. And it smelled like blueberry. I wanted it to smell like blueberry, like the scratch and sniff stickers Miss Hanley used to put on my social studies exams.
That is good. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
I want it displayed at St. John's. I want to be close to Gotti.
And what's it made of?
What's it made out of?
What's your statue? This Joey statue's made of what?
It's not going to be made out of marshmallow. What's it going to be made out of? What are you going to make my statue out of? Wow, that's a good question, man. Petrified wood. I like wood. My whole fucking home is decorated with wood. Wood, petrified wood.
I like that. I'm a wood person too. My book is that I haven't really released is called Woodman.
You better get me a copy.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had
And you never want it,
and I never want it,
but it's good.
but it's good. Tell me something I never had. Um, Something I never had. I guess age 200. I wouldn't want to be 200 years old.
I had that answer, immortality, age 200. Yeah. Okay, if you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I would talk. I would try to talk to the person and take them to McDonald's. I mean,
That has got to be the greatest answer, Joe. This is one of my great. I wish you could meet the guy I learned this question from. He was from New York, and had a wife and a great family, but he's basically stayed on the boardwalk as an old man, as an altacocker. And he was just an old guy, but he was so New York and knew jazz. He used to hang out with Billie Holiday and Charles Mingus, and he knew all the experimental film. I mean, he was like one of my heroes. And it is a weird question. If you're in a vat of vomit, someone throws a bag of shit at your face, what would you do? No one says, I want to talk to the person. I want to take them to McDonald's. That's amazing because they don't understand that it's involving another person. They think about what they're going to do.
right.
They don't, so the one answer I have to tell you is Descent into the Maelstrom by Edgar Allan Poe. This woman on the Venice boardwalk says, I'd take the velocity of the bag of shit coming at me and I'd use it to swoop my way out of the vat of vomit. And that's like in Descent in the Maelstrom, the short story by Poe, is the sailor is smushed by his boat in the storm, and the broken boat parts are swirling around to his death in the whirlpool, and he just studies the patterns and swoops his way out of it. And that's what McLuhan said in his first paragraph in his first book. We're drowning in information overload. We can actually we can study the patterns and swoop our way out of it. We don't have to drown. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
The blue pill movement.
What is that?
There's an underground movement of youth that is in opposition to the common lay agenda. I'll keep it at that.
So you mean I can Google blue pill movement?
Yeah.
Wow. And so Utah Phillips is an activist and a folk singer, and he said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Ask that again. Say that again.
Utah Phillips says anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Okay. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Yeah. No man is an island. I mean, we always have to acknowledge that there are others around us, and we do have to make rules that are in cohesion with our our fellow folks around us. So I don't think we make our own rules. I think you definitely have to have some kind of board of cohesion.
But who get installed that sense of community in you? Your Bronx family, your mom and dad, did you get it on your own? How did you learn that that community is important?
I have no family at this point. But as far as
I mean, did your parents teach you the value of community, or did you get that on your own?
I got that from music. I got that when I got involved in the punk rock
Yeah.
movement. I found a community that accepts all,
Yeah.
and I feel honored to have been a part of that. And I think I pass it on with my work and my aesthetic of how I view the world. But definitely through the punk world I got involved in.
That's amazing. You know who I interviewed the other day? Xander Sloss, the bass player for the Circle Jerks.
Oh wow! Oh,
Yeah, you
what episode is that?
say it again.
Is there an episode number for that?
Yeah, no, I don't know the number, but you just go to live videos, and I'm probably wrong about everything.
Oh,
Yeah, no, he really covered the waterfront, and I think we should, what we should do, Joey, in the futures is pick a topic and do a salon with like
that's
four
awesome.
people.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Great.
and then this thing about uh giving oneself one's own laws, that's amazing, because that's what the etymology of the word freedom, it says freedom is giving oneself one's own laws.
Yeah.
So T.S. Eliot said freedom is only truly freedom when it appears against the background of an artificial limitation, which caused McLuhan to say, how are we to argue with people who insist on sticking their heads in the invisible teeth of technology and calling the whole thing freedom? So what does freedom mean to you now?
What does freedom mean to me now? So far, as crazy as fucking shit is right now, freedom, the United States of America, as much as we have grievances, it is freedom. I travel a lot. I travel often, and as much as I have a problem with the United States, it does represent freedom.
Wow, that's really well put, Joey. I appreciate that. You're a comprehensivist. You see the big picture. You kind of see, things are this way, but they're good. There's services and disservices. So what question remains unresolved for you?
The divorce rate, Gerry. Why can't we just fucking get along and stay fucking together, man? Divorce rate, it keeps increasing, and it just fucking make love each other, talk it out. This fucking divorce rate is fucking off the chain, man. It keeps.
I think you nailed it. Talk it out. That's what I am so fortunate to have a wife.
Come on.
I have a wife that we can lay the cards on the table and just go, let's just talk this out. Come on.
Talk it out. Work it out. Be a team.
That's it. Beautiful.
Come on.
Joey, how has drums, playing music, shaped your behavior? And then how has film shaped your behavior?
Yeah. So drums gave me a confidence in myself. I am a good drummer, but I still gave me that. It initiated the confidence, and film gave me a reason to talk. So the drums, at this point, I do it in about an hour a day. I said, so that it's almost like going to the gym. It's cardio at this point. I do it. I love playing drums. I do not want to be in a band again. I don't want to go back to that. But with film and making movies, it's very different, right? It's I feel a deeper responsibility to leaving behind. I'm not going to leave behind my drum beats or what I'm doing in that back room with my fog machine and the colored lights. But with the film, I think I do. I think I do, and I feel I do. And I've had other filmmakers inspire me. I love ordering Criterion series, which are deep dives into films, and
Yeah.
I try to approach what I do in that same kind of a way. And then one day when I'm dead and the door is unlocked and it's because I'm dead, well, someone will find my shit in a fucking archive and they'll be like, wow, and maybe they'll twist what I thought was funny and they'll make it not as funny and vice versa.
Beautiful, Joey. Thanks for laying your cards on the table. I got a couple more and we're out of here. Thank you so much. It's been so enlightening.
Man, I love doing this shit.
Yeah. So Thornton Wilder, he said 1928, art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes in part 2 and over 2 hours in part 1. What's it really all about for you?
You would say that all over again and I'll answer it.
Yeah. It's basically what Thornton's saying is art is confession. It's the secret told. But it's not only the desire to tell the secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. So you've laid your cards on the table. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this, but what's it really all about for you?
Yeah. It's like riding your car. You ever ridden your car where it's close to empty?
Yeah.
And you're just going for it. And you trust that your car is going to make it to your destination without conking out, leaving on the side of the road. I feel it's to me it's that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like trust. Is that trust in the universe? Is that trust in fate? You think we're making it happen or watching it happen?
You're trusting that you're being as honest with yourself as possible and you're delivering to your fullest capacity.
Yeah. It's good. What gives you the most optimism?
Children.
Dude, that's amazing how I get that as the answer. Youth, children, that is the answer I get the most. And it's funny because, Joey, the first question I ask is what's your favorite, what's the best thing for a human being? And Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And the last question is, what gives you the most optimism? That's what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. And he says, other people. Oh. So I think it goes back to reverberate your thing about how important community is in other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it's you, Joey. Thank you so much.
Over?
Man.
We're finished? Oh, man.
Well, I can ask you some more if you want.
Ask one more at least. And then we'll
one more?
Yeah, why not? Let's do a hard one, man.
A hard one? Well, did we go? Oh, well, here's the perfect one for you, man. This is introducing Tarkovsky.
Okay.
In 1983 at the Telluride Film Festival.
Okay.
Stan Brakhage said, I personally think the 3 greatest tasks for film in the 20th century are 1, to make the epic, to tell the tales of the tribes of the world. 2, to keep it personal, because only in the eccentricities of our personal lives do we have any chance at the truth. And 3, to do the dream work, that is to illuminate the borders of the unconscious. What are your 21st century updates? Or any comment on those three, but do you have any updates? What is the greatest task for film in our upcoming years?
The greatest task for film in our upcoming years is to figure out a way to, which we will, because we did it with digital versus an analog, is to embrace streaming and to understand that streaming is how the artistic expression is delivered, and to embrace it, and to not go against. There's the Paris theater was purchased by Netflix, and they're showing starting September 1st this whole a series called Big and Loud, with films like 2001, by the way, with Atmos Dolby. Anyway, their whole thing is there's still a very giant prejudice against streaming cinema.
Yeah.
Me myself, I have a conflict about it, to be honest with you. Particularly the programming that's episodic. I think it's fucking nuts, and I think it's ridiculous. So yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge, just the streaming thing, man. Just the technology, just technology. It's advancing so fast, and this whole artificial intelligence, which as we speak today, how many weeks are we? Are we at months at this point with this strike that's going on with the writers and the actors?
Yeah.
I mean, this is fucking insane, man.
Yeah. But
this is scary.
The streaming issue, let me just talk about that for a second, because this is so when YouTube broke, however many years ago, I read in the front page of New York Times, they got this new thing on the computer. You can watch Parliament Funkadelic video. I collected every one of their vinyls. I says, holy shit, I'm not going to go online and watch this, but I'm going to tell all my friends. They have this new thing called YouTube. And all my friends, they go, why'd you tell me about that? I went in a rabbit hole and I spent 3 hours there. I would not watch YouTube for the first 10 or 15 years. Although I made a YouTube, you should watch it. It's called How to Make a YouTube Video That's Not a YouTube Video. That's it's almost 20 years old, however old.
You have this? You made this?
It's on YouTube. It's made the year YouTube came out.
Wow.
But I never would watch YouTube. And so then I, had this love of cinema, experimental cinema, and no film history. I hate films now. I think the three things that ruin the world are cars, guns, and TV. And I don't like to watch TV.
Wait, cars, guns, and what else?
TV.
Okay. So
which is movies. Which is movies, basically, I don't like Kenneth Anger, but he said a line I love to repeat. The day cinema was invented was a black day for humankind. Because it was like, why do we reproduce this shit? So, I love cinema, but you know what I love to watch the most? And I'm going to break down. I don't go to movies anymore, and I don't want to see Barbie. I can talk about Barbie for 3 hours, and my friend said, did you see it? And I goes, I don't need to see it. I've watched enough clips. I know that all the incentive. I've read articles. I can talk about it. So what? They go, you have to see it. No, I don't. And I don't feel I do. So I thought our TV was broke because I don't really like to watch TV, but my wife wants to watch a movie as a date once in a while.
What kind of movie? What kind of movie?
She likes like rom-coms or, no, she likes good movies.
Example. But give me a movie. Give me a movie. An example.
Film noir. I mean, she worked with Nicholas Ray. They Live by Night. I mean, come on. I mean, she's in a Nick Ray film. But I mean, no, we like to watch film noir or something. Okay. I mean, any good films, but I put these two pieces of paper over our TV, so they're just art. So it's like the TV's broken. We're not watching movies anymore. And then I had to make these pixels and use it, and I figured out how it's not really broken. So then I was like, oh no. And I found this film about film archiving. I'm going to send you a link to it. It's an amazing film about film archiving. And I'm kind of sitting through it over 3 days in chunks. But all I do is watch stupid shit on YouTube for a minute or a half a minute. And then, then I like music documentaries on the big screen. There's something about it, like, Muscle Shoals documentary. That was so great to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
And see white hillbillies backing Aretha. I was like, no, don't tell me. It had to be black guys. And it's like white hillbillies. So I'm going to see the Wayne Shorter documentary on the big screen, which I look forward to. And then I'm going to go see Houston Sings the Blues, which is all the great R&B and blues people that came out of Houston. One of Zappa's heroes, T-Bone Walker. No, Clarence Gatemouth Brown, Big Mama Thornton, Lightning Hopkins, so I know I already know that I'll cry and I'll have a good time being in a room, comfortable seats. The key is I drove to the theater with my friends. So driving in the car is as important as going watching the movie with them. And so it's like such a huge thing. And I want to believe that streaming is the way, and I know it is. I don't care if people watch it on the big screen or a little screen, if whatever they can suit their ways. But we know you're more engulfed in a film when you're in this room with a bunch of strangers.
Yes.
And my thing is, seeing you in Ann Arbor in your film, the most important part is hearing the human talk in front of the screen at the end. That's the dialogue that is created by the film, to me, is more important than the film. What Ann Arbor Film Festival is for me is talking to people in the lobby. And that's, and it's good to be, we could relate by painting or by punk rock or by whatever, but it's like the community it creates. So I think your opinion of streaming is important because, Marty's in this film. We've got to start Film Foundation and preserve films. So he made this booklet and he'd go to the studio executives and he goes, here's all the films that your studio's made and here's instructions on how to preserve them. And these guys go, what the fuck? The woman said it best at the beginning of the film. She said, it's like comic books. You don't see comic books. You just read them and throw them away. And that's what they did with movies. But the worldwide people are trying to say, this is my culture preserved.
Yeah.
Well, why are you preserving your culture? Live life now.
That's right.
So it is a dilemma to me, how, if technology is the most human thing, then how can we flip it to keep humanity going? It's just like you go, okay, I played enough live gigs.
I did.
And, lugging drums and all that.
Done. Not happening no more. Done. Done.
And then just this technology, I would have had to wait for you to be here, or I would have to interview you in Ann Arbor. And what an amazing, what we're on, Joey, is called television telephone. And guess what year it came out in your city? New York World's Fair, 1939, the same year Finnegan's Wake comes out. They demonstrate television telephone. Guess when it became a reality for us? 68, 2001. The guy calls his daughter from the spaceship. So now it is totally a reality, and it's more real. If me and you were interviewed in a room, we would have not stared at each other's faces for 2 hours. Our eyes would have wandered. We'd be looking. In this, it forces us to have a more intimate, I think, it's really amazing technology. But most of my friends,
it is. I agree.
most of my friends hate it. They go, "When are you going to have live events again?" I goes, Zoom's fine with me. That's horrible.
Gerry. I agree with you, Gerry.
Yeah. And we mutate or we change. But see, look at the beauty is you went to Roy's house. I've never seen Roy's body. I mean, literally, I've seen his face for 3 years and learned.
Roy's house is like Gerry's house. The whole time I was like, this is Gerry's house. Yes, yes, yeah. I love Roy and I love you, and then you at some point are going to be there. Yes.
Yeah, come to Venice anytime, man. We're gonna have a ball, and
I can't wait.
We were in Western Mass, and my wife went to New York, but I didn't go. It's traveling's hellish for me. There is a filmmaker I want you to listen to, the podcast a couple days ago, Bill Brown.
Okay,
yeah,
send me a link, please.
Yeah, he was a superstar in Ann Arbor many years, and he's a nomadic filmmaker.
Okay,
he's sort of like Ross McElwee meets James Benning, but he's real, and he runs a film festival. You should enter. It's out in North Carolina.
Gerry, before we go, can you tell me a little bit about that movie Awake? Because I loved it.
You mean it's just me talking in front of my laptop?
No, it's called Awake, and it's a different discussion with other people. It's called, on the title card, it says Awake by Gerry Fialka.
Oh, you mean it's called, is it a feature film, The Brother Side of the Wake?
No.
How long is it?
About 7 minutes and change.
Is it
an M, with the letter M. It's 2 words with the letter M, but on the title card it says Awake. And it's different interviews.
No, is it a pixel?
Yes.
What's in it? Just people talking and jumping around?
Yes. With these,
it sounds like
face.
Oh, the guy puts the mallets in his. It's either
a couple of people.
Yeah, no, that's either Birdie Beyond, or it's
letter M, 2 M's.
Oh, Mother Mumasons.
Yes.
Okay, it's called Mother Mumasons.
Awake.
Okay, no, this is it. It says Mother Mumasons, and then
96.
No, then it's called Awake. That is Spike Lee influenced me because he called his films a joint.
Wow.
And a joint by. So I said, well, I'll call my films Awake. So it's just a way of saying a film. So all my films say Awake.
Wow.
So it's just a way of saying this is a film by.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, that's Mother Mumasons. No, I'm sort of proud of that.
I loved it. And if you look, I commented on it because it reminded me of that Seabrook 1977. It was shot with a Porta Pack. I know yours is shot with the
Porta Packs were cool. I shot on. No, I was just talking about this. I had videotapes from my media center in Ann Arbor. We had taped this Robin Williams appearance on Canadian TV on a reel-to-reel black and white video.
Oh wow.
Reel-to-reel black and white video. Wow. And so that's why Pixel is like that return to early video art.
Absolutely. Did you see the movie the police tapes? The police tapes. It's shot on Porta Pack. It's about a police station. Oh, please, you need to watch the police tapes.
Oh, okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, please.
I'm going to show you. Hold on 1 second. I want you to see this film. This is called Film, the living record of our memory.
Oh wow.
And it's really about archiving film. It's it's really worth seeing. Film.
So what's the how does it end, Gerry? How do they explain what's the best way to archive material now?
Well, there it says right there, a documentary about the importance of moving images. I haven't seen the whole thing, but it's about the history of archiving cinema. Yeah. and it's really, really amazing.
So
So
you said your stuff is already in a
yeah,
climate.
my stuff is in University of Santa Barbara. It's taken a while, but we're finally cataloging it. I've got the list, and
Plastic bags, freezer, kind of like being in a meat. Like
oh my God, it's
freezer.
those
That's
big
great.
wheels on these
I love it.
huge, and it
I
comes in,
love
and
it.
then he opens it up, and they have the stairs on the ladders on the wheels, and I mean, I'm really lucky. They really respect it, and I'm just honored, and that it started when Norman Mailer sold his archives for $1 million. I literally said to myself, if he can get $1 million, I could at least get 100. But I didn't sell my archive. Believe me, it was just a question of finding someone who would, either donate or, I donate money to them because they're doing such a good job now. But it's hard to find. People collect their stuff all over the world, and they die, and the shit goes in the dumpsters, and I'm a dumpster diver, and I find this shit all the time. I
Did you
find
did you read In the Belly of the Beast?
No, what is it?
Norman Mailer. It was was it Jack Henry Jack Abbott or Jack Henry Abbott?
Oh,
He was an inmate and he was writing back and forth to Norman Mailer, and Norman petitioned that he be released, and he got a bunch of people to petition for his release. This guy who was a murderer, and he basically wrote this book called In the Belly of the Beast about life being in solitary confinement and being in prison. And
yeah.
basically the first week or the first night he got out of prison, because of Norman Mailer's petition, he stabbed a waiter and he went right back to jail.
Oh
And
no.
he committed suicide in jail. In the Belly of the Beast, it's as
Yeah.
good as autobiography of Malcolm X. It's a
Yeah.
classic.
No, and Mailer's a great writer, but he's he had, like all humans, he had his strengths and his weaknesses.
Yeah.
But there is a great tape on YouTube of Norman Mailer with McLuhan for 30 minutes talking.
Wow.
And it's funny because Mailer is so uptight, rah, 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 and Marshall's just like Mr. Cool. Yeah, okay.
That's great.
It's really beautiful because it shows you that we can be calm and sane about conversation, that we don't have to, like, you're wrong, I'm going to convince you that it's like, I really resonated with you dissing Quentin Tortellini in our first part, because I like to hear that. The guy's he's as good as any other filmmaker, but
Not even, but anyway.
Not even, but I know, but I never watched any Quentin films until that Hollywood film. And people like, how could you not see it? I goes, I don't want to watch, but it's just like Werner Herzog. People overrate him, but he is a great and important filmmaker in some ways, and in other ways, he tapped into being a brand.
Herzog would have took the guy to McDonald's like me.
That is a great statement. That is a great statement, Joey. It's really that is what forgiveness is, the key to life, I think. But I've had one-on-ones with Herzog. By the way, did you see the book? There's 2 books you have to get that's worth paying, and I'll pay for them both for you if you order them, and I'll send you a check. One is called Craig Baldwin, I Want to Live. It's this thick.
I'll buy it. Just email me the names of these things.
And then the other one is called Cinema Ann Arbor. It's all about the history of cinema in Ann Arbor is way beyond the film.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What was that thing you were talking about with Michael Moore, though? What were you saying about Michael Moore?
Oh, Michael Moore. Yeah, because he's from Flint, Michigan.
He's on the board of Ann Arbor, I believe.
Yeah. No, I think he just contributes. I don't know how much he advised them.
You're
but
right.
He's my age. When I went home from Ann Arbor one weekend, he was running the film festival series at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, the branch. Wow. And we talked. This is way before he was a filmmaker. And we talked, and he goes, what films do you recommend I show? And I just got turned on to Eraserhead, and I goes, you should show Eraserhead, man. That dude is out. That's the most out. So anyways, that was funny. And then years later, I introduced him at a bookstore in Santa Monica. but I really want to interview him. But he was basically appearing his last film, which was actually pretty good. It's about 6 or 8 years old now.
Who is this?
It was something about what other countries do. So I forgot the title, but I can look it up
It
and
was
tell you.
pretty good. You're saying it was good.
It's good. I mean, it's just typical Michael Moore. It's good. I appreciate his films, but I know why people criticize him, but I appreciate him. And they're doing a Q&A at USC. The beautiful thing at USC is they have the filmmaker there speaking with the film, and it's like the best theater you could imagine, and they have really good Q&As. So in this age now, they can do the Q&As on the big screen on Zoom. And guess what? When you come out and talk in front of the movie screen, you're puny. The film image is dominant. Now the film ends and you come out and you're just little. It's not as impactful. He couldn't come because he gets his life threatened, and somebody threw a cup of hot coffee at him once, and his bodyguard got the coffee and burned himself instead of Michael. So he's got to have a bodyguard, to be a filmmaker like that. That's horrible. And so this was more powerful when their face is on the big screen doing Q&A. And one of the students said, "How has filmmaking affected you?" He goes, "It ruined me. It changed my life." He didn't mean it ruined him, but what he means is that it's sort of like what you were saying, that filmmaking is hard, but somehow you have a drive to do it.
Yeah.
But it's like it tears you, but it probably destroyed his marriage. Who knows? Whatever, and people say who worked on his film say he's an asshole or whatever, they say he's a dictator, like Frank. People go, "Oh, he's an asshole." I goes, "Dude, why? Was he an asshole to you? How do you know that?" Because people repeat it, because he's a visionary, and he says, "Here's my vision. I want you to do this." And then people go, "Well, you're a dictator."
Did you see Blood in the Face? One of the earliest films he worked on. Blood in the Face. Write it down and watch it. It's one of the earliest films he assisted on. He worked on.
Who's the he?
Michael Moore worked on it. I forgot the main filmmaker, but it's called Blood in the Face. It's a classic, and anyway, check it out. You'll appreciate it.
But anyways, I mean, it's easy. One of my friends in the industry, I says, "What do you think of Michael Moore?" This was 20 years ago. He says, "He's fat." I goes, "What does that have to do with it?" I mean, come on. But it is people's image, they, like I love Preston Sturgis, and I love filmmakers like that, but they might have done weird things. Like my friend who teaches cinema online to students, he's taught online for 20 years and in classrooms, film teacher. He can't teach Woody Allen.
Why is that?
Because his students will complain. They go, my professors teach. Dude, get over it. Birth of a Nation is the first feature film in America. If you teach
the Odessa steps,
you can get. Oh, wait a minute. You know about the Odessa steps? This is
Battleship Potemkin. My apologies.
Potemkin. Do you know that Alice Guy Blanchet, a woman who was making films in the time George Méliès was making films?
What's her name? Ethel?
Alice, Guy, third word, Blache. So look at her movie, the documentary on her. Unbelievable, because Eisenstein went to the movie theater in Russia when he was 8 years old, and he saw her version of the Potemkin scene, and he says that he was inspired to make it from her, and she gets no credit with inventing narrative cinema. She got blackballed out of cinema history. So again, it's like I'm into docs. Docs can teach us stuff, and we hope make the world a better. I mean, bottom line, Joey, is it's always like, it sounds like a Hallmark card, but we're trying to make the world a better place. Yeah, good luck. How do we do that?
Yeah. inspiring others, Gerry.
Yeah.
Inspiring others.
Yeah. Okay, well, you inspire me, Joey. I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, but I know this will never end because we will keep talking
Yeah.
forever and ever, Joey.
Kiss.
Whoa!
Kiss.
No,
Gerry,
no
God
one's
bless
ever.
you. I love you to death. There
I
you
love
go.
you, dude.
I love
Thank
you, man. Get the hell out of here and post this shit. Bye. Bronx forever. Bye.
you.